This video is going to be about how you have to learn from your mistakes and you can't go back on them in a lot of cases. And the thing that you need to realize is before you make a major purchase, let's talk about house. You need to make sure it's where you want to live, what you want, and then is this going to suit you in the future? Um, my wife's daughter and her husband were going to buy a house, and we were so happy that they got outbid because it was just a disaster waiting to happen. There was all kinds of things that need to be done, and to them it was cool, but it was just not right. So then they found a house that was really really unique, very nice neighborhood, and they bought that and that worked. Now the stories I'm going to tell you today is the second biggest purchase is going to be a car, especially a new car. So I'm going to give you about three examples of exactly what not to do. So number one, I was at the tire shop and this couple came in and they were probably in their 50s and they were actually picking up the Subaru. And so we were talking about it, and the father told me the whole story that their daughter decided to buy this Subaru, and she just thought it was it and thought it was great and loved it. And then all of a sudden she just goes, I don't like it anymore and I'm going to trade it in. Well, I don't know if you've heard of the term being upside down. And that's a term everybody uses. Like if you buy a new car off the lot, it's worth 75% if you drive it back on the lot, which I'll get to in a minute. So she bought this car, decided she wanted another car or didn't like this one. And so she was going to trade it back in. And so she told her parents that. And when they started checking on it, and of course, if you sell it privately, you're going to get more money for it than you are at the dealer because they're going to give you half of what it's worth privately if you sell it yourself. But she was upside down in her payment of $15,000. So that meant the car was worth $15,000 less than what she owed on it. So they told her, they said, you're absolutely not going to trade in that car and buy another one because it's just going to be ridiculous. So they already had another car that was paid off. They gave that one to her, and then they took over the payments on the Subaru to not lose the value of it. And I will say this: if you're going to buy a car, then you need to try to, if you're going to buy a brand new one, which I highly recommend, and then pay it off as soon as possible because the interest rates are very high. Maybe even save up for it and pay cash. But the reason is, if you buy a car and change your oil every 15,000 miles and change your oil every 5,000 miles, and then you do all the other maintenance every, like have the tires rotated every 5,000 miles and do all the fluids and everything at 50,000 miles, then that car is going to last you 10 years, 200 to 300,000 miles. And I will always say this right now is I would definitely buy a Mazda 3 for a car or a Mazda CX-3 for an SUV because they're very inexpensive to maintain. They're great cars and they don't have a CVT, and you can look that up later because CVTs are very high maintenance. A lot of people may disagree with that because of Toyota, but I don't like a CVT just because it is a CVT. Now, so knowing that the parents took over the car to help their daughter who was just bent on getting another car, and they said no, and they did that. So another story, and these are just examples, that's all they are, is a guy bought a Ford Focus, and the Ford Focuses had come out with a manual transmission that automatically shifted for you, and it was single plate, and they were terrible. They were terrible designs because they were clunky and had troubles, and a lot of them they call them dual clutch transmissions, which are pretty good. It's a DCT. They're pretty good. I stick to a regular transmission, like a regular automatic that's in a Mazda, and that's what I like. But this car would stall and jerk and start. And so this was a relationship of a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So he went into Honda and told them about it, and they go, oh yeah, those cars do that, so we have a Honda Civic for you. So he just traded in that Ford Focus and lost about 5,000 on it and bought a Honda Civic. So he, on top of buying the Honda Civic, he had an extra $5,000 to pay because he lost money on that. It was upside down immediately when he drove off the lot. And of course I talked to his girlfriend, and she was just so mad at him for not talking to her and like working on it. So The other story is about a woman who walked into a Nissan dealership and she wanted a 370Z. And the new ones, I think, are 400Zs now. But anyway, she wanted a 300Z, and the salesman said, "Do you want to drive it?" She goes, "No, I love the looks at them, and I want it." So they did all the paperwork. Everything was great. She was so happy. She drove off the lot, and guess what she found out? That car rode like a truck. It's a sports car designed to go, twisting around a track or going high speed. So the next day she drives it in and she goes, "I hate this car and I want to trade it in and get something that's nice, like say an Altima or whatever." And they said, "That'll be fine." So they offered her 75% of the price she paid. And she goes, "Why?" They go, "When you drive it off the lot, it becomes a used car." And these are things that you just can't do. You have to make a decision and stick with it. And that's why I will say this to you is that you should really, really, really try to do your research on a car. Now, I'm promoting Mazda because I love Mazdas. I'm not a fan of the Toyota Corolla or the Camry now because they both have CVTs, and some of them will last. If you take care of them, they'll last 200 or 300,000 miles. But they're pretty maintenance heavy, and that's the reason I don't want to spend any extra money on that. So you just need to do your research and see what you want, see the reliability. And I've talked to salesmen before, and I've been in stores, and they'll say, "Should I buy your Mitsubishi or should I buy a Subaru?" And they just shake their heads and go, "No, go buy a Toyota. They're just that good." And a lot of people, there's a guy on YouTube called the Car Wizard. Highly recommends Toyotas. He highly recommend another guy recommends Toyotas because of their reliability and their resale value. Now, you're going to pay more money for a Toyota if that's what you want. And I would go with a RAV4 if you want an SUV and just get the base one and be done with it and try not to have them add any extras on there. But the Mazda people are pretty easy to deal with because they're kind of down on the totem pole. There's like Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and then Mazda, but they make a great vehicle. So one of the stories I'm going to tell you is um, a lady I knew, her sister wanted a car. And she lived in a small town and they didn't have a Toyota dealership. And she knew she wanted a Toyota Corolla, which is what I would have told her to get. But she had a quote friend working at a Ford dealership. So he sold her one of those Ford Focuses that the transmission was just horrible. And she talked to him about it, and he goes, "Well, I didn't know anything about it, and I think they're great cars." And so there she was stuck with this car, and so then to pay for it, she had to pay like extra, because her credit score was low, and then unfortunately her daughter wrecked it and totaled it out. So they didn't have any money, so they went back to the Ford dealership and bought an Escape, which is a little bit better. And then what happened is that they piled the Corolla payment on top of the Escape payment, and there she was paying almost for two cars, which was just crazy. And all she had to do was call us, and we'd have been happy to help her. So these are the lessons you need to take with you. Do your research and then plan on keeping it. Don't start making decisions because you'll be paying a lot of money for this and you lose a lot more money. And I guarantee you, a dealer is there to make money for themselves, not to help you out of a bind. And so, like, I knew of a guy that had a car. It was a Jeep, and it only had like 15,000 miles. And I was 10 years old. He traded it in for 5,000, and they sold it for 10,000. So these are the things you need to learn: is do your research and stick with your decision, and then just take care of it. That's the main thing today. Have a good day, and as usual, like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, and tell other people about this channel so they can also become a millionaire. Goodbye. Thank you.